So one of the biggest takeaways I got from your presentation is that it takes an inordinate amount of patience in order to find out what are the good investments to undertake in, as by your example of the individual who looked through 50 years and made one investments. For millennials such as myself, who are used to the generation of smartphones and digital apps, who maybe don't necessarily possess, that type of patience, which is probably something that may be developed. I'm not really sure. What are some tips or what are some words of wisdom that you would have for those within the millennial generation who would like to adopt this type of approach?
Sure. All right. That's a good question. So, uh, what I would say is, I think investing is a great activity for a gentleman or lady of leisure, if you will. You should have something else that is your primary vocation, if you will, and this becomes secondary. I think it works really well when you don't have to think about, oh, I haven't done anything last week or the week before, and what am I doing? Uh, so one way you can skin that is you can get all the hyperactivity out of your system by being involved in fast moving startups, for example. You could do any you could have a day job which satisfies those cravings of you know lots of action and activity. But in your investing world, uh, I think there is no way around the fact that patience is almost it's like a law of physics in investing. Uh, it's unlikely that one can develop a great track record as an investor if one is hyper. I think the two kind of don't jive with each other. There are periods of time when lots of investments become available or certain sectors become attractive and such. And there are many periods of time when there's not much to do. And so investing is a great activity if you have something else that takes away all your cravings for action. Um, and it's very important to, I think it's a very important thing that if you're, it's also an activity that probably to some extent is probably there's some genetic predisposition. If your genetic predisposition is of a hyperactive trader, you're probably not going to have an easy time sitting there like Charlie Munger, just reading without doing anything. But if you're predisposed to just being a thoughtful person who doesn't particularly crave action, then I think it can be a huge positive. So it's not easy to be on this path. One of the reasons I wanted to give this talk is I wanted to pound these ideas into my head to get to being more patient than I am, because I think that I have not practiced this degree of patience in my career, and I think if I were to be more patient, I think the results would be better. So I don't have an easy answer for you. I would just say split your time into two buckets: the hyperactive bucket to get all that hyperactivity out of the picture, and then have this second thing on the side, which is reading and waiting.
How many pages or how many hours of work would you say went into for every one idea that came out to be?
Well, so the thing is that the Japan. I was interested in looking at Japan because at the time, if you just looked a little bit at the Nikkei and what had happened to it, I mean, it's gone through a long period of doing nothing, and Japanese companies have governance issues. They sit a lot of cash. They don't give it out. There are definite negatives there, but cheapness gets over a lot of negatives. So there are faster ways to do that. Uh, I could do exactly what I was doing with the Japan company handbook with Capital IQ. That's I think I don't know 18,000 a year or something. But if I use Capital IQ, which is how I'd actually got to the company that marked in Warren's book, is I'd actually taken a shortcut, and then I tried to get Warren to get interested in Capital IQ. He had no interest. I think the reason he had no interest, he just loved the treasure hunt and such. So it didn't take that long. this is the funny thing about the market. So those bargains should not exist. You have some portion of your time in the class that goes on efficient markets. If markets are fully efficient, these things just shouldn't exist. It's the classic, like the University of Chicago, the professor's walking, his student points out there's a $100 bill on the ground. He says that's not a real $100 bill, because if it was the real $100 bill, it wouldn't be on the ground. And so markets are almost fully efficient, but they're not fully efficient. And there's a huge gap between those two statements. And Buffett is saying that I'd be a bum on the street with a tin cup if markets were efficient. So it is not so much, I don't think it would take that much time. I think it's a question of whether one has the fortitude to buy, because you're going to be buying things that you've never heard of, companies you've never heard of, whose stock prices haven't moved in a long time. You would have to sit there and watch paint dry for many years. Are you the kind of person who loves to watch paint dry? How many people love to watch paint dry? Please raise your hand. Alex loves to, he's in the real estate business. He paints the wall and just sits there and watches. Is that what you do, Alex? All right, okay. So if you love to watch paint dry, which the millennials I take are not too keen on, but if you love to watch paint dry, this is the field for you. Because that's what you got to do. You got to make your bets and then spend your time talking to students so that the time is spent and you don't do counterproductive activities. So